Welcome to Elevating La Cultura podcast, a space where I talk with Latinas who are passionate about what they do and are willing to share their passion with others to change the narrative, especially for the next generation. Each season is centered around different topics, but all with a Latina perspective. This is season 3, focused on education. So vámonos, and let's get into it. Hey, we recorded this episode late on a Wednesday night, so I'm so appreciative that Vanessa could take the time out of a full-time teaching, full-time mom life to chat with me for the podcast. Vanessa is a certified bilingual and special education pre-K teacher, and she pours everything into making every day special for her students and the teachers around her. She shares great information on how to find community and resources for a child with an IEP. So please enjoy our conversation. Hi! I'm so excited that I get to speak with my friend Vanessa today. We've known each other for a while now. We met through CLM, Chicago Latina Moms. I know I bring it up all the time, but Chicago Latina Moms, literally is a huge network of amazing Latinas all supporting each other. And so we have worked and collaborated on different projects for CLM. And so we've gotten to know each other over the past year and a half. And so I'm so excited to bring you Vanessa's story today and her journey through the education space. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hello, thank you, Karina, for having me again. My name is Vanessa Mendoza. I am Latina from Chicago, born and raised. Came from the CPS, went to grammar school in CPS, went to high school in CPS, and then did my undergrad at NIU and graduate program at NLU in the city. So the city is a big part of my life. That's why I haven't left it yet. I am going on to my 14th year of teaching. I am a pre-K teacher for all 14 years, hence my little blazer I thought I'd wear for fun, especially my kids love dinos, so that's originally why I bought it, but I thought it'd be a little fun. Considering pre-K is probably the only grade you get to have a little more fun and less rigor. I have been, like I said, doing this for 14 years. I have been in special ed for a good half amount of that time, and in co-ed, not co-ed, but a blended classrooms, which is where we have some of the students that have IEPs learn from the other students that don't have IEPs. So that is who I am at the moment.
Yeah, thank you. So why don't you walk us through what made you decide to want to go into teaching?
Okay, so my mom was really big on education. She made sure we went to good schools growing up. She really focused on magnet schools, and I could tell right away my mom was very involved, very involved. My dad worked a lot, but I knew education was very important from the start. And then during grammar school, I noticed that I was always teacher's pet. I'd always sit next to the teacher, and not in a bad way. It was more like they would leave and they would leave me in charge. I'm like, oh, Vanessa, write down the names, and it was like a trend in every grade. I would grade papers. I was always like that student, which I loved it. I always liked it, and then I got to grade with the red pen, and it was a big deal. And then high school, I was very involved in a lot of programs, after school programs. So education has always been a big deal. And anything I did or any class I did, I wouldn't say I excelled in every class. I wouldn't call myself such a bookworm. I had a good B, a B student. But I just remember I always had my mom as a motivator. And you always want to just do good for your parents, right? So I just knew I loved school. I loved school. And then my mom actually was a Head Start assistant in the city, actually in the YMCA in Pilsen, and across from Benito Juarez. She worked right there. And I would go sometimes to her classroom, and I'm like, oh my God, this is so cool. And then she'd take pictures of the kids, doing the Halloween parade. And I got like a little taste of it. And so it's always been like a part of my life. And then in college, I was like, oh, I want to do this. I didn't know what grade. So I kind of wanted to do the upper grades, and then changed my mind after I did a bunch of kind of like student teaching, a lot of the library programs. And I realized like every time I had a task in college, our groups was always the best. So I knew I just had this passion, creativity, and I'm like, oh no, I need to do this. And I actually student taught in a preschool in DeKalb, Illinois, and that was the very first year that that teacher and I were able to do a ballet folklorico with the pre-K kids. And that has been something that she had been wanting to do forever, considering back then DeKalb's kind of, not too many minorities. It was predominantly white. And that was her dream. So knowing that I had that as a background, we made it come true, and it was like a big thing. I don't know, pre-K was like, it was in my heart. And, then you graduate and you go to all your job fairs, and there was a position, and I've been there, same school, 14 years. Like I said, sometimes general ed teacher and sometimes special ed teacher. So that's kind of how it started.
That is so fun. That is such a great story and like a great foundation to
Yeah.
your educational story as a whole. And
Hmm.
I remember that I also had certain teachers, like they would also let me grade, and I was like, oh my gosh, I am grading these papers. And even though it was like a different class, like I wasn't grading my own class, but I was
Hmm.
like, ah, I have the
Yes, it
power of
was
the
so
red pen.
powerful.
Yes.
Yeah. That now the baby blue pen is promoted, not red.
Oh,
But yeah, it's like that power, and I was like, I like this feeling. And then there's a little funny story, but every time we had lunch, and I had to throw this in there because everyone probably thinks of it. I don't know if you remember, if you were in CPS, the teachers always had the opportunity to buy dessert in the lunch line, and I was always like, I want to be the teacher and to just buy the piece of cake. It was always like a thing. I'm like, oh, that's only for teachers. So that was another little motivation, but they
oh,
don't do that anymore.
yeah. Ah, that brings back memories. Like I had
Yeah,
forgotten about
yeah.
those things.
The good old times.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so you said that sometimes you've been in general education and then
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you've been in special ed.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so
Yes.
can you explain, like, did you have to get specific certification to
Yes.
do
So
both?
in my undergrad, I kind of had a route, and at this point, I didn't know that how important the bilingual endorsement was back in '07. And I remember my advisor, she's like, "You're bilingual. You need the endorsement. How are you not going to get the endorsement?" And in my head, I'm like, I didn't want to teach Spanish. I don't know Spanish like the right way, and I always felt like a true Spanish teacher is someone that learned Spanish in Mexico, or that grew up and went to schooling in Mexico. So I never even thought, I didn't even know what that was like I do now. And then, so I went the special ed route, and you could pick one, bilingual or special ed, and they were both endorsements. So nowadays, everyone kind of is promoted, is, pushed to go get the bilingual endorsement. A lot of schools, kind of prefer that, before they hire you. So now I see the value of that. And I actually went to get my master's in that. So now I understand what my advisor was saying. So everybody out there, listen to your advisor. They know best. Ask all the questions. So I did have an endorsement, and that just means like 2, 3 classes in special ed, and it's only in that level. So I only have the endorsement in pre-K. There is another endorsement, which is K-12, which I think it's the LSB one, but I only had it on my certificate for pre-K. That's why I can do it for pre-K only.
Okay. And then would you mind describing the difference between CPS and magnet school? Because I know some of our listeners are not in Chicago. And so CPS stands for Chicago Public Schools. Um, but, and like the different school options, because you mentioned that you went to a magnet school, right?
Yes, I went to magnet school in Brighton Park. So a magnet school is kind of on a lottery system. So you apply to it, and it's based on lottery. And the benefits of a magnet school, and that I saw growing up, I really like the diversity of it. There were people being bused from different communities. It wasn't just a neighborhood school. Not that there's anything bad with neighborhood schools. I just felt that a magnet school was a lot more diverse, a lot more, I felt um, I got to know a lot of different cultures in many ways. And it was kind of like a melting pot without even knowing it was a melting pot at my age going to magnet school. But now seeing and, wow, that's, that was a true magnet school. But that's kind of the difference. Magnet is a lottery system. You get bused from different, nowadays, I believe they have to accept different parts of the city into the magnet school so they don't all, so that every community gets included and not just one certain area. So there's like a system now making sure that it's equal. And then versus like a regular neighborhood school where you just got to be part of the neighborhood to go to the school. And there's selective enrollment schools, and those schools are schools that you have to take a test, and you have to score a certain score in order to get into the school. And that could be like through a gifted program or STEM program. Those are kind of like the 3 models of school that I know of in the city.
Okay. That's
Mhm.
so interesting to me. I'll need to
Yeah,
like do some more research on schools
yeah.
now that I am living in the city. I am curious about the different schools that are around me and in the area.
Oh, okay. Like the differences, and
Yeah.
you could look up every school's near you, their demographics, their report card, their you know, where they score and how they're scoring, where they were before, where they're at now, like their own mini report card.
Oh, that's
But
cool.
there's also different models and different types of schools as well. You have the dual language, you have the schools with bilingual program, and it just depends on what you're looking for. But Google's very, very well to help you what schools are where and what schools are what.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
You said that the school that you're at now, or the classroom that you teach, is it dual language?
No, we have a bilingual program, and so I'm in a pre-K blended classroom, and in the blended classroom, there are about 6 students that are students with IEPs, and I would be servicing those students as a special ed teacher, and that just means making sure that they meet their goals, writing their goals, giving them their accommodations, and depending on their language is how I service their goals. So if we have some there, students that are predominantly Spanish, we'll, put them in a Spanish small group. We do English with bilingual support in our school. It is not a dual language school. We just help them in their native language. And so we have 6 students that are identified as IEPs, and then we have the rest of the students, which could be up to 11 students that are gen ed, that are in the same classroom. That's why it's called blended. so that it's the least inclusive environment, which means they learn from everybody else in a regular setting. We try to place them so that the students are learning from everybody else. So there is a general education teacher in which I go back and forth. It's just depending on the need of the school that year. And then special ed. And then we have what's called a SICA, which is a special education classroom assistant. And that is the person that will help with toileting, that will help with diapering, that will help with accommodations and things like that. So there are 3 teachers in our current classroom, the special ed bilingual pre-K classroom. And we say bilingual because we do have groups that we only speak Spanish to, but that's kind of what the model looks like.
Now, is every class blended or like encouraged to be blended?
No, not every class. At our school, we have 2 classrooms that are special ed classrooms. In my class, I have 2 sessions, 3-hour sessions, 2 3-hour sessions, and I have the 3-year-olds. So I have the students that are coming out of early intervention. I have the students that just turned 3 in October and November. And then the other classroom has the 4-year-old students and they're full day. And this is to help them transition into kindergarten. And they also have 3 teachers, the general ed, the special ed, and the SICA. And they have a full day model. And that is a 7-hour program. And that's just getting them prepared for kindergarten. So we have 2 at our school, one that's younger and one that's ready to go to kindergarten.
Okay. And what are the benefits that you've seen with having a blended classroom?
Um, the number one benefit I feel is the kids are really learning from the other kids. A lot of these kids we pair up in buddies, and they really just model for all the other kids. The goal of the blended classroom is for anybody to enter the class and not be able to tell who's the general ed teacher, who's the special ed teacher, who is the assistant, and who are the students with IEPs. That is the goal of the classroom, that all the kids are doing the same thing in their own way. No one's being left out. Everyone's included. And all the teachers are on the same page as well, working with all students. We don't put the kids that are, special ed together, or I don't only work with special ed kids. I work with all the kids. So that's the beauty of it. You see these kids bloom because they have a buddy all year long, or you see them doing what their buddy did, or these kids are really being true models for the kids that need that extra support. So I love seeing that, and that's always been a goal, no matter what teacher or what special ed teacher I get, or depending on what year. The goal is everybody walks in, and it's blended. Hence, everyone is with everybody else doing the exact same thing, and you can't tell who's who because we have a very good structure and routine in the class.
That is so beautiful. I love that. Um, how does the school work with the parents or work with the families to make everyone feel included, just like in the classroom?
So the beauty of pre-K is that we're honestly the parents' teacher as well. We're everyone's first teacher. We're the parents' first teacher and we're the kids' first teacher. So at our center, we're called a CPC, which is a child parent center. Hence, child parent center. We focus on the child and the parent. We're always about community. We see the parents twice a day, drop off and pick up. We have such a good open communication on our Remind program that we use. The Remind app has been awesome. So through our CPC program, our Child Parent Center, we do have one staff member that has an assistant. She's called a parent resource teacher. She is in charge of creating workshops. She is in charge of creating orientation for the parents. She is in charge of surveying the parents to see what they need, whether it's English classes, tech classes, citizen classes. I mean, you're like you're getting all this at the school. Like it's honestly like a wealth of resources that you get coming to a CPC center. Parents meet, they have workshops. Currently, they're virtual, but before they would be in person. Every classroom back then would also, before the pandemic, would their parent would come in on Tech Day and sit with their kids at the CPC center to work with whatever the theme was for the month. So we're very, very big on parents, very big on realizing that we have to hold them accountable. It's not just us, like it's everybody. We're a team. And whenever there's conflict or whenever there's an issue, we always just try to remember that we're a team. If you're not happy, I'm not happy. If I'm not happy, you're not happy. So we remember that we're all in this together. So that's honestly another reason I loved pre-K, is being able to teach the parent how to teach their kids, or teaching them how to read a simple book that they checked out for lending library. So that's the beauty of it, of being able to be two teachers having two students in a family. But yeah, our center is really, really big on that.
And I'm sure the parents like really appreciate that too.
Mhm. Yeah. Oh, I forgot to mention that we do have a calendar, a CPC calendar, in which they can sign up for workshops, sign up for um, the library system. They could check out books through the CPC. They can check out tech if they need to in the CPC. If they need help printing, if they need help with anything, they know that that's like, kind of home away from home along with their kids, where they're home away from home. So it's definitely a great program that you didn't think probably existed, right? You just think school and that's it. But no, they're really big. CPCs are really big in involving the parent.
I've noticed that there's a lot of acronyms for
Oh, yeah.
school things. Um,
Yeah. Ever changing acronyms.
yes. So what is CPC?
Child Parent Center.
Oh, okay. Child Parent
Child
Center.
Parent Center.
I'm
Yeah.
trying to
Child
keep up
Parent
with
Center.
everything.
No, it's
And
okay. No, it's okay. It's a Child Parent Center.
okay. And then
Yes.
also, what is IED?
IEPs,
IEP.
individualized education plans. So
Oh,
those are the
okay.
plans that students with special needs have that will, have like a cover page, will have a page of what their services are, their goals for the year, and broken up into every quarter, their accommodations, and how many minutes they would receive in a week, and important info like that, IEPs.
And how early does a student get an IEP or start off with an IEP?
So before they enter CPS, if they do have any services, it's most likely through early intervention, which is birth birth to three. The minute they turn three, they can transition into a school. So we've had a lot of students that come from, we call it EI, early intervention, that may have turned three after September. So that means we would have them 3 years because they have these plans. They have the IEP plans. So they would then transition into an IEP and then be in one of our programs, which most likely would be the 3 hour because they're three.
Okay. And then the IEP then continues with them throughout the grade levels?
It does. So every year, so once they get an IEP, everybody is to evaluate them depending on what their early intervention plan was. So once they enter CPS or any other that I know, it's CPS, or everybody has their own system. But from what I know, once they enter, anybody that was on their caseload prior will then evaluate them. So it could be the psychologist, the social worker, the occupational therapist, the physical therapist, the speech therapist. They will go ahead and do that to see where they're at before they enter. and then go from there to see what services they need. And that follows them through the year. Every year we have what's called an annual, where we'll go ahead and revisit the goals, revisit the minutes, revisit anybody else that should be working with them. And every 3 years, they get a full evaluation where the psychologist will redo it. Well, the speech does it every year, but mainly the psychologist redoes it on the third year to see if they continue having the plan or they phase out of it. So
Oh,
it's done
okay.
every year, but the big one is done every 3 years.
Okay. Okay. And what is, I have so many questions. But what is like the best way for uh, kids and families with IEPs to find resources or like to start out? I'm thinking of like families who might just be on the beginning part of this journey and have a lot of questions and not really know where to start, where to turn to, where to look for resources. Um, what is the best way to find community? Is it through the school? Is it through other resources, other programs?
So normally, a lot of parents that, let's say, they initially have like a problem or they initially have a concern and don't know how to start a referral process, that's definitely done through the school once they're at the school. We've had a lot of students come in as well with a doctor note where the doctor note will say, we suspect this. Please evaluate the child. So I definitely think the pediatrician is somebody very important. They give you resources on you don't only have to have certain resources at school, you can have them outside of school too, but then you have to make sure insurances, we don't say that. People, we do have parents that do have students getting services at school and outside of school, but it just all depends on your insurance. So a resource would be insurance. See if your insurance does take outside resources. Your doctor is a big one. Your pediatrician is a big one. They're able to give you places to call for speech or occupational therapy or behavior. They're a big one as well. But once they do start at the school, the biggest resource is what's called a case manager. The case manager at every school is in charge of setting up those first meetings with the parents and everybody, all the specialists, to see the parent's concern and to see if there's any way we can go ahead and help the parent through the process. So I would definitely think community would be school, your doctor, and the case manager at your local school.
Okay. That seems encouraging for people
Mm-hmm.
who might just be starting their child's educational journey.
Yeah.
Um, I know that teaching, and as I've talked to teachers, like I know teaching is such a like an emotionally uh, I don't know how I want to say it. It's
Roller coaster.
yes, it's hard.
Yes.
It's hard
Yeah.
emotionally,
Mm-hmm.
mentally, sometimes
Yep.
physically, um,
Mm-hmm.
and like you seem to enjoy it like so much, but I know that part of it is like making sure that you take care of yourself. And
Oh, for
so
sure.
like because I know you, like I know how much you enjoy life, like you're like outside of the classroom. Like it sounds like you
Mm-hmm.
enjoy your time in the classroom, but I
Mm-hmm.
also know you take time to enjoy life outside of the classroom. So I'd
Mm-hmm.
love to for you to talk through like some ways that you have incorporated self-care into your routine. And like when did you notice that this was like necessary?
When I had my own kids. When I realized I was leaving one job to go to the second job. I do gotta say, before kids, I felt like I had a good brain break right after work. Granted, I still have those students, we call them the pillow students, that you sleep and you think of all night, that things could have gone different, or like, I wonder how they're doing, or I wonder what we could do tomorrow. So no matter what, you're going to have those, right? But I feel like before kids, it was a lot easier, kind of to have more, social time. But I noticed how important mental health was once I had my first kid. I A perfect example. I think I didn't celebrate. I think my one of the birthdays when my son was born. I felt guilty celebrating myself, and that was not me. All my friends were like, "That's not you. You have like adventures for your birthday. How are you not? Just because you have a child." And you just feel like once you become a mom, it's all your kids. And I totally get it. I think you're a mom, and I don't know if you made this, I call it a mistake, but it's really a learning step. I just felt like everything was about them. And then I realized, like, no, I need to have my alone time. I need to have my me days without feeling mommy guilt. Um, work gives you a certain kind of stress, but kids give you a different kind of stress. So I think once I had kids, I realized the importance of mental health, the importance of adulting, the importance of going out and just doing my nails alone, doing, just sometimes just being alone in my house, or being alone with some friends for a couple hours. I realized it was really important. And then, you throw a second one in the mix, then you're like really dying for me time. But um, I have such a good support system, whether it's a mother-in-law or an aunt or friends and a sister-in-law, or, my brother. And they're kind of a phone call away, and it's really hard to trust people. So I do appreciate everyone out there that has been my support system, for letting me have a me day, letting me just go shopping by myself, letting me just have a mental break. So very important to have that time to yourself.
Yes, I completely agree. I'm with the kids all the time. As a homeschool mom, I am here. And when I'm not
Mhm.
like doing academics, I am driving them to ballet, soccer practice, all the things. And or like going shopping for the things that they need for all of these
Yeah.
extracurriculars. Uh, yes, take time
Mhm.
for yourself. And sometimes I do
Yeah.
feel guilty because my husband works during the day and
Mhm.
I'm with the kids during the day, and it's kind of like we swap. And there's not
Mhm.
a lot of family time. Like we do occasionally when we're all here, which is like usually 2 days a week. We will sit down to dinner together.
Mhm.
But usually I'm like, okay, I'm going to meet up and network with some people. I'm going to um, like this weekend I'm going to dinner with my cousin and my sister, and I'm just like, I'm sorry,
Mhm.
but I need to just go
You
out
need
for a few
to.
hours. Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. Um,
Yeah. And not feel guilty about it. There's a thing going and then feeling guilty, which I still have a little problem with, but I'm getting better. And not to feel guilty about doing it, not having the mommy guilt.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Um, how do you prepare like for a new year? Because like I know that we just started the school year like in like a little over a month ago. Um,
Mhm.
and I know like summer, like even for the kids, like transitioning from summer to a new school year can be rough because
Mhm.
and I feel like especially after the past year, like everyone is just so tired. Like we're just it's not like we're tired like sleepy. Everyone I feel like is just the same tired. Like we're just tired.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
do you have any like advice or tips for people when they need to transition, whether it's like from summer to a new school year or just transitioning from the end of the day to the home time? or like from
Mm-hmm.
weekends, going from weekends to Monday. Um,
Mm-hmm.
what is a good way to like mentally prepare transitions, whether it's like for teachers or for kids? Like, how can we best help them too?
Well, every year before I start a new year, I like to like redo the classroom. Whether it's like moving a center here or this year, I hadn't moved in like 8 years, and I moved, and I'm actually in like half a room that's shared with the CPC center, the Child Parent Center. Um, so you have to make it yours, okay? If you're transitioning, like trying to get ready for the new year. I know that you had asked that. I think just start fresh. Like, how excited are you when you move into a house, or when you have a new car, or when you have like a new space, like, and everything's blank, and it's like, okay, like you get excited. So one of the things I do is try to get excited about it. Take every. That's all I did. I helped. I got a new teacher this year. She's the gen ed teacher, and she's brand new out of college, and so I'm like, I gotta make her first year experience like super cool, super fun, and I all I remember was doing was moving everything off the wall, everything, making it ours, making it new, making it, fresh. So that's definitely do a remodel, so you can get excited about it. Because if you're not excited about it, you're not gonna like where you work. I always enjoy coming in with the lights off to have my little breakfast 30 minutes before the kids come in. It's like my little me time at work. And everyone knows, like, if I'm in the room, the lights off. They all know. And some people hate it and some people don't. But thank you for the people that let me turn off the lights. It's like a thing. So just make it yours. Make a fresh look. That would be one of my recommendations. And as far as like, I mean, our brains are amazing, okay? The fact that a mom or even a teacher or anybody in the workplace has to prepare for the next day, I am one of the persons, and I don't know if anybody else, but if I don't do this, I will not have a good day. If I don't have things out the night before, exactly where they go, in the same spot, and it's just for that. I am not, OCD. I kind of wish I was so I could be a lot more, organized in the house. But those are the things that I have to have set every day. If not, it's not going to be a good day. And I already know. I already know whether. So all preparing, whether it's your meal, your clothes, knowing what you're going to wear the next day, knowing if leave reminders. The phone has been amazing. Reminders on your phone so you don't forget. I had a pool this summer, so if I didn't write in my reminder to turn on and off the pump, it was not going to happen. Don't be afraid to put your reminders. Don't be afraid to have 20 alarms, because our minds can't do it all. So you need it, do what works for you. But that's what's worked for me.
That is great advice. I've even noticed with the kids since we've moved. So, if people don't know on the podcast, we recently moved. We sold our home and we are living in the city now. And this transition has been uh, kind of rough. It's been smooth, but I think we were so used to our routines before that now we're adding a few more minutes to commutes for like extracurriculars, and not everything is completely unpacked yet. And so we're realizing, oh, well, we are missing a soccer cleat and we're missing like this. And it's like we don't realize it until we have to leave. And everything is like we're just rushing around trying to get everything. And so I've really had to go back to the routines that were really working for us when we were before we moved, and say, okay, everything needs to be set out. Get your water bottles filled because we don't have time for you to be like realizing that it's empty and then we're spending 5 minutes filling up the water bottles. Um, and then we end up being 5 minutes late. So yeah, going back to like routine, and even though it seems like so simple, it makes a huge difference to like have everything set before you actually need it. So yeah, good advice for adults and for kids.
Yeah. I mean, you're trying to teach them structure and routine. Well, you got to have some yourself. So do what works for you. But that so far has worked for me.
Yeah. So are there any, like, as a Latina, especially in the education space, have there been any ideas or patterns or limiting beliefs that you had to work through as you've grown as a teacher?
Um, I think when I went to college, it definitely was. I wouldn't say limiting. It was a little challenging because I didn't see a lot of back then. It wasn't a norm for a Latina to go to college, right? Um, that's definitely an obstacle or something challenging I felt, going somewhere and realizing that everybody else looks like me. Um, but then, kind of finding those that do, and then networking with them, and then making memories with people that you can relate to, um, helped a lot during college. As far as during teaching, I think you do have to um, kind of put yourself out of what your norm is, because not everyone has your values, not everyone thinks the way you do, not everyone has your traditions. So um, you went into it kind of, going in with what I know, but you kind of have to be open to new traditions or new ideas. So I definitely think going in open minded um, is the way to go. It's good to have your values and your traditions and your background, but it's okay to accept everyone else's as well. So learning, it's still a learning experience for me. I now feel like a seasoned teacher, so I'm learning from the new teacher, and I think keeping an open mind, and I've never liked being treated, they call them veteran teachers, where they don't change, and they kind of do the same. So um, it's nice to have an open mind and take what you can, kind of like a mom. People give you advice left and right, and you take it nicely, and same as teaching, don't say or have like a view, kind of have your own, but accept everyone else's. It's nice to have that kind of personality versus you know, doing it my way, and this is how it's gonna go. Um, yeah, that'll be probably good advice for um, people entering the field. Be you, but also be open to everybody else and be open to learning without losing yourself.
Yeah, for sure. Now, I know that when we first started, you said that there were many people that like inspired you along the way. Like there were teachers that encouraged you, um, and you saw the examples of like your mom that inspired you to follow this education path. But has there been that one teacher or one or two teachers that really either said something to you or just made an impact in your life?
I would say one was a teacher that had to come to my house during prom time. So I lost my mom right during the summer of my senior year. So I was about to be a senior. So prom, my dad had no idea what prom was. He thought prom was a father and daughter dance, and that I was so embarrassed of him that I didn't want to take him. So I had a teacher that came to my house and explained what prom was. So because of her, I was able to go to prom. I'm not saying my dad was accepting of prom. I ended up marrying my prom date, by the way. So I think that's hilarious. But my dad, you know, we don't go in limos, and we don't just let your daughter go. Like, he's never done that. And he was alone. So I appreciate the teacher that came out and talked to my dad. And then another one was my counselor, my high school counselor. She I always helped her, like, of course, here I am, I helped her. She would go get this kid and get this file. I had to do hours. I would do my hours with her. And she was just so sweet. And people, had their own opinions of her, but I always had like the best memories of her. She actually bought my prom dress from David's Bridal and my prom shoes. So, yeah, those were two teachers that definitely made a difference in my life in the rough years.
Oh, that's so beautiful. That's a great
Yeah.
relationship that you had with those
Yeah.
two
Hmm.
teachers. Um,
Yeah, those definitely stood out.
so, is there any encouragement or advice that you would want to like give to the next generation? Whether it's here, I'll pose it in two different ways. So, like, if you had to send out your class of little kids and say, like, okay, here's my encouragement and advice for you as you go on to kindergarten, what would you say to them? And then, like, do you have any encouragement and advice for like the next generation of teachers that want to enter this space?
What a cute question for the kids now. So, to all my 4-year-olds, stand up for yourself, defend yourself, don't be afraid to talk. Remember, you have a voice. Remember, you are important. And always hold your head up high because you are special. That's what I would tell my little ones, which I work with them every day to defend themselves when there's issues. Because once you go to kindergarten, there's 30 kids and one teacher. They will not know what's going on unless you speak up. So I've always been very avid on speaking up. As far as anybody going into the teaching field, make sure you do it because you love it. If you think you want to do it and then realize you love it later or you don't love it, don't miss the opportunity to do it. I go to work excited about a unit. We're on the tree unit. And if my whole classroom doesn't look like a forest during the tree unit, I'm not excited about it. Um, um, so yeah, do what you love, test it out. If it's not for you, it's not for you, but try it. Remember, whatever you end up doing, make sure you love it because you want to wake up every day wanting to go do what you love.
Yes, that is great advice. And I love
Mhm.
I love seeing your passion like in the classroom but also in life in general. Like I love the how you just pour so much into the people that you're around and your
Mhm.
kids. Like I see that as you
Mhm.
plan birthday parties and as you
Oh.
plan um the units for your kids. I know
Mhm.
last year like I was able to see a little bit of the units that you were planning for your kids, and it's just beautiful. Like it's exciting. It's as if like it's what I would want for my kids if
Mhm.
they went to school. Like I would want them to
Mhm.
see their teachers that are so passionate about being there for them,
Mhm.
educating them in a way that is relatable to them. And so that is just so
Yeah.
beautiful. And I'm just so excited for that for your teacher that she
Oh, I
gets
know
is
she's new, and I'm like,
yeah.
I could have cried that I moved after 8 years and I had all these books, and I'm like, no, I can't have her first experience be about me. It's about her, so we just made it our own. God
Yeah,
put
that
her in my path for that reason. God knows what He's doing. And that's what I
I
tell her every day.
I think so. But I think that she has such a great example in you, like for her
Mm.
first year. Like
Oh,
I'm excited for
thanks, Karina. That means a lot.
yeah, I'm excited for her and to see how much she grows because of your example. Because I think you are an amazing teacher.
Oh, thanks. Shout out to Miss Delgado and Miss Vanessa, who's in our classroom.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, I thank you so much for your time. I thank you for being willing to speak on your story and your educational experience and encourage the parents that listen to this episode and encourage future teachers. And um, I'm just so grateful that you took the time to speak with me today.
No problem. Thank you for emailing me. I was so excited when I got your email. And thanks for being patient. Sorry, the beginning of the year is always, like you said, new routine, new everything. I'm like, okay, let me get focused. But thank you for waiting for me.
Yeah. So I will talk to you later. Thank you so much.
Adios.
Bye. You can tell Vanessa has the biggest heart for her kids and inspires joy in everyone she's around. Her excitement for life is truly contagious, so I hope you take some of that excitement and apply it to your week. And a little reminder to plan out some time for yourself so you can regroup and stay excited for life. Okay, amigos, thank you so much for listening. There will be a new episode every Tuesday, so after you listen, feel free to take a screenshot to post on Instagram and tag at Elevating La Cultura or send me a DM. You can also comment on our YouTube video if you're watching online. I always like to hear from people and how they resonate with the stories that I share. So leave a review on Apple Podcasts so we can get more ears listening to these stories and we can continue elevating la cultura. All right, enjoy the rest of your day, afternoon, evening, whenever you're listening, y nos vemos next week. Bye.